Hi friends, this video is on a topic related to the practical physiology or clinical physiology. It's related to the examination of the 8th cranial nerve and it's related to the mechanisms of hearing. So the topic is tests for hearing or tests for deafness. Deafness is a loss of hearing. To begin with, let's try to first understand the types of deafness. There are two types of deafness. One is called as conduction deafness and the other type is called as sensory neural deafness or nerve deafness. Sensory neural or simply nerve related deafness or nerve deafness. So, let's first understand these two types of deafness with the help of the hearing mechanism. So, as you are aware, there are three parts of the ear: the external ear, the middle ear and the inner ear. Let's have a diagrammatic representation. This is the pinna, then external ear. Then the middle ear has the tympanic membrane and the three ossicles, malleus, incus, stapes. And then we have inner ear, which has the cochlea. Of course, the vestibular apparatus and the cochlea together make the labyrinth. We are concerned with cochlea right now for the sake of mechanism of hearing. So, external, middle, inner ear. Sound will travel through the air from the source it originates, then it enters the external ear, then there are middle ear mechanisms which enhance that sound, which is called impedance matching, and then finally the sound will enter the inner ear. In the inner ear or in the cochlea, there is basilar membrane, and on the basilar membrane there are basilar fibers. On the basilar fibers there is organ for transduction of sound, which is called as organ of Corti. This organ of Corti consists of hair cells, and the sides and bases of those hair cells synapse with the 8th cranial nerve fibers, auditory nerve fibers or 8th cranial nerve fibers. So, nerve fibers will arise from those hair cells in the organ of Corti, and they will take the signals to the auditory cortex where we perceive the sound. So, to summarize this, sound coming through the external ear, going through the middle ear, finally reaching the inner ear. From the inner ear, from the organ of Corti, the 8th cranial nerve fibers are emerging. So, the nerve component of the sound, the impulse generation and impulse transmission about that sound starts from this inner ear, from the organ of Corti, and 8th cranial nerve fibers carry the sound impulses to the auditory cortex. And therefore, the deafness is of two types. If there is something wrong with the external ear, I mean there is obstruction of the sound in the external ear, for instance foreign body, wax, or if there is some problem with the middle ear, the commonest one is otitis media. You know, oto is ear, otitis inflammation or infection, to be more precise, infection in the middle ear, the commonest condition that leads to the type of deafness which is called as conduction deafness. So, remember, conduction deafness is that the sound not normally passing through the external ear or middle ear. Conduction of sound through the external ear or middle ear is defective. That would be called as conduction deafness. Sound is not reaching the organ of Corti properly. That would be conduction deafness. So it can be called air conduction deafness or simply called as conduction deafness. The other type is nerve deafness or sensory neural deafness. If the conduction of the sound through the external and middle ear is normal, but if the nerve itself is damaged, please try to understand. Nerve is the final path. It's going to carry the impulses related to the sound to the auditory cortex. That's the final path. So if sound was transferred to the inner ear normally, but if the nerve is lesioned, then it's called as nerve deafness or sensory neural deafness. So the two types of deafness, there are lots of reasons of the nerve deafness, the degenerative changes in the nerve or certain drugs that accumulate in those receptors in the hair cells. So that can lead to the nerve deafness or sensory neural deafness. That should be clear first. There are two types of deafness, and when do we call them? What type of deafness is it? Right. But remember this, it's finally the nerve which is going to carry the impulses related to the sound. Just keep this in mind for now. Now to discuss the tuning fork tests, I need one more information that you must understand here. Air conduction, we will call it AC, and bone conduction, the BC. So when we perform a test like a tuning fork test, we are going to check air conduction and bone conduction of the sound. When we are checking air conduction, we will place the tuning fork in front of the ear, the vibrating tuning fork in front of the ear. We are checking air conduction. So the sound gets transmitted through the external ear, then middle ear, finally reaches inner ear. When we are checking bone conduction, we will place the tuning fork on the mastoid process. We will place the tuning fork over the mastoid process. We are checking the bone conduction of the sound. And when we do that, when we place the tuning fork, vibrating tuning fork, this is just a diagrammatic representation. When it is placed on the mastoid process, the base of the skull vibrates. I repeat, when we place the vibrating tuning fork on the mastoid process, the base of the skull vibrates and sound is directly transmitted into the inner ear. Okay? Please remember, we are going to use these two terms, air conduction, bone conduction of the sound. When we say air conduction, the vibrating tuning fork will be placed in front of the external ear. So it will be air conduction of the sound. When we say bone conduction, we will place the vibrating tuning fork on the bone, mastoid process. So base of the skull vibrates and the sound is remember this, sound is directly transmitted into the inner ear. So external and middle ear mechanisms, especially the middle ear mechanisms, are avoided when we are talking about the bone conduction. Bone conduction, the sound directly transmitted into the inner ear, and from there nerve will carry the impulses as usual. We have already said that. So these were the basic points that you need to understand before we actually discuss the tests now. So let's now discuss the tests for hearing or tests for deafness. There are three types of tests. Some tests are crude ones. They are not very sophisticated or elite type of test, like a ticking clock test. The subject and the observer will be seated in a quiet room, and there will be a ticking clock held equidistant between the two, and then that ticking clock will be taken farther and farther away from both the subject and the observer. And at one point, the subject, if the subject says, I have stopped hearing the ticking of that clock, but if the observer is still able to hear that, that means there is some amount of hearing loss with the subject. So that's a very crude method. Second is the tuning fork tests. We are going to describe them in detail in this particular video. And the third one is, of course, audiometry, most useful in the sense that it will definitively tell you about the hearing loss and what frequencies have been lost for hearing and so on and so forth. In audiometry also, there is pure tone audiometer or pure tone audiometry and speech audiometry, two types. So these are the tests. We will be focusing on the tuning fork tests for hearing or for tests for deafness. Now, first things first, there are tuning forks of various frequencies. So, they will be placed in the table or on the table or in a tray, and you will have to select one to proceed with the tests. 3 tuning forks placed in front of you, and you are supposed to pick up the correct one. So, it's 125, I beg your pardon, 128, 256 and 512, just a correction, 128 Hertz, 256 and 512 Hertz, 3 tuning forks. The long one is 128 Hertz and the shortest is the 512 Hertz. Which one do you select? Look, the 128 Hertz tuning fork, it produces coarse vibrations. Okay, we are not interested in the vibration test. We are interested in the test for hearing mechanisms. And therefore, remember, 128 Hertz tuning fork is used to test the sense of vibration. Sense of vibration is tested by 128 Hertz tuning fork. It's put into vibrations and placed on the bony prominences. So, sense of vibration tested by 128. That leaves us with the remaining two, the 256 and 512. The best one for the tests of hearing is the 512 Hertz. 512 CPS or 512 Hertz is the ideal one to test the hearing. Why is it said to be ideal? For two important reasons. One is, this frequency lies in the audible human speech frequencies. 512 Hertz lies between 500 to 2000. So please remember, 500 Hertz to 2000 Hertz is the range for audible human speech frequency. So that's one, and this lies in that range. And the second reason is, with 512 Hertz, the tone decay is less. It's minimum actually. The decay of the tone will be minimum or very less when you use this tuning fork, 512 Hertz. So please remember, the longer one, 128 Hertz for vibration sense, and the shortest one, 512 Hertz for the tests of hearing. So let's see the tests now. The first one is Rinne's test. Let me in fact write the tests. Rinne's test, Weber's test. These are the two important ones. And then there is Schwabach's absolute bone conduction test. Schwabach's ABC test or Schwabach's absolute bone conduction test. Let's understand these tests one by one. First, the Rinne's test. Just for the sake of remembering, this is the only test probably when the test is positive, the person is said to be normal. Normally when we say a test is positive, it indicates some abnormality, right? Here is the only test which is when you say that Rinne's test is positive, it indicates normal hearing. Just remember this. Right. Now Rinne's test, how do we perform it and how do we interpret it? Interpretations, we will come to that in a little while. Let's first try to understand how the test is performed. Before that, just remember, normally AC is better than BC. Just remember this much for now. Air conduction is better, longer than the bone conduction under normal circumstances. I mean in normal hearing, AC is better than BC, AC is longer than BC. Why is that? Remember what I told you about the air conduction and bone conduction. Air conduction is conduction through the external ear and middle ear, whereas bone conduction is from the bone directly into the inner ear. It cuts off the external and middle ear mechanisms. Middle ear mechanisms we are saying. So point is, air conduction includes the middle ear mechanisms, and middle ear causes impedance matching, means it enhances the sound while entering the inner ear. Since middle ear mechanism enhances the sound, therefore air conduction of the sound which involves middle ear mechanisms, the air conduction will always be better as compared to bone conduction. Bone conduction, vibrating tuning fork will be placed on the mastoid process and it will directly go into the inner ear. It cuts off that middle ear component. So remember, this will be the normal scenario. AC is better, longer than BC. Remember this. And that's the basis for Rinne's test. How is it performed? Tuning fork, strike the tuning fork on a firm surface and place it on the mastoid process. Place it on the mastoid process of the subject. Listen, we need to give instructions to the subject beforehand. Many students, they tend to ask the subject, do you feel the vibration? That's a wrong way of asking. We are not interested in vibrations, okay? Although we are using vibrating tuning fork. But the question should be, do you hear the tone? Okay, not do you feel the vibrations, do you hear the tone? That should be the question. So, strike the tuning fork on a firm surface, a rubber pad or something, and strike it on the pad or a firm surface, place it on the mastoid process of the subject. The subject says, I am hearing. Good, we are checking bone conduction. When the subject stops hearing, you are supposed to instruct the subject in advance. When he or she stops hearing, he or she is supposed to indicate to you, okay, I stopped hearing, immediately transfer it in front of the external ear. Immediately transfer the vibrating tuning fork. See how the tuning fork should be held. When you place on the mastoid process, the foot plate will be placed on the mastoid process here. And then when you check the air conduction, The prongs of the tuning fork should be held like this in front of the external ear. So that's how it is conducted. Now, what are the interpretations? Rinne positive. First interpretation. So, Rinne positive means normal hearing. What is the meaning of that? The meaning is AC was better than BC. Air conduction was better than bone conduction. How did you interpret that? Okay, you place the tuning fork on the mastoid process, you are checking the bone conduction. And when the subject stops hearing that, transfer it here. So now you are checking the air conduction of the sound. And remember, air conduction involves the middle ear mechanisms, and therefore air conduction is supposed to be better, longer as compared to the bone conduction. So the subject stopped hearing, you place it immediately in front of the external ear. The subject says, yes, now I can hear. It stopped there, but now he or she can hear. That means air conduction is longer. It continued for longer duration. It is longer, it is better as compared to bone conduction. And that means it's a normal hearing. So, Rinne positive is the first interpretation. When it's normal, and that means air conduction better than bone conduction. Hold on. That's not all. The story does not end here. There is another interpretation of this AC better than BC. Either the patient can be normal, or there is a possibility of nerve deafness, sensory neural deafness. Yes, let's understand this. Just now we saw that whether it is air conduction or whether it is bone conduction, finally the sound reaches the inner ear and it is carried by the nerve. Okay? So if there is nerve lesion, if there is nerve deafness, what happens? What will happen? Air conduction, bone conduction. Air conduction is better than bone conduction normally. Now, if there is nerve lesion, what happens is air conduction decreases, bone conduction decreases correspondingly. But they still maintain their relationship of air conduction. They still maintain the ratio of air conduction being better than bone conduction. What is the reason that this has happened? Because nerve itself is lesioned. And nerve was the final common path. Whether it was air conduction of sound, whether it was bone conduction of sound, finally sound reaches the nerve, and nerve is the final path that carries the impulses to the cortex. So if that final path itself is lesioned, then air conduction and bone conduction of hearing, both will reduce proportionately, both will be decreased, and still they will maintain this relation of AC better than BC. So remember, if AC is longer than BC, AC is better than BC, the subject is either normal or there is a possibility of nerve deafness. How will you sort this out? We will see that in the due course of our discussion. But then, Rinne negative. The second interpretation is Rinne negative. It means what? It means the possibility of conduction deafness. The possibility of conduction deafness. Why? Because in this scenario, there is BC better than AC, BC better than AC. That's Rinne negative, and that's a possibility of conduction deafness. Look, If there is conduction deafness, just remember the diagram that I had drawn some time back. Conduction deafness means what? Conduction of sound through the external and middle ear. If there is a problem with external or middle ear, then the air conduction will decrease. You remember we saw this some time back, that air conduction means what? The sound comes through the air, enters the external ear, then goes to the middle ear and finally reaches inner ear. That's the air conduction. So something wrong with the external or middle ear resulting in the conduction deafness, the air conduction will decrease. And therefore what happens now is bone conduction becomes better than air conduction. So that's an interpretation, that's the indication of conduction deafness. How will you confirm this? How will you confirm this? Look, our first attempt is that we place the tuning fork on the bone, and then when he stops hearing, transfer it to the in front of the ear. If air conduction is longer, better, when the subject had stopped hearing here, but the sound will continue when air conduction is continued or air conduction is attempted. But then when air conduction is decreased, what is likely to happen? Strike the tuning fork, place it on the mastoid process, bone conduction is going on, the patient says, I have stopped hearing, you transfer it here, the normal person will continue to hear this air conduction. But I am talking about conduction deafness, what is likely to happen? Air conduction has reduced. So when you transfer it in front of the external ear, the subject will say, no, I can't hear even now. Stopped hearing through the bone, and when you transferred it immediately, the subject could not hear the air conduction as well. So there are two interpretations, either it's called Rinne equivocal or Rinne negative. Bone conduction and air conduction are almost equal. So Rinne equivocal is one way of looking at it. And otherwise, yes, possibility is that air conduction had reduced and bone conduction was therefore better than air conduction. Look, air conduction, bone conduction. Air conduction has reduced because of the middle ear problem, otitis media. So now bone conduction better, longer than the air conduction. The subject could not hear when you transferred the tuning fork in front of the external auditory canal. How to confirm this now? Simple. Reverse the procedure. Reverse the procedure. Strike the tuning fork, place it in front of the external auditory canal. You are checking air conduction of the sound. When the subject says, I have stopped hearing, transfer it to the bone immediately. If the air conduction has reduced and bone conduction has become prominent or better, when you transfer it, you have reversed the test now. When you transfer it to the mastoid process, the patient will say, I continue to hear now through the bone. What is your interpretation? That means his air conduction has reduced and bone conduction has now become better than air conduction. So why has that happened? Recall the diagram. Air conduction defective. That means external ear, middle ear, defective transmission. And what do we call it? Conduction deafness. So these are the interpretations for Rinne's test. Rinne positive, Rinne negative, Rinne equivocal and false Rinne positive as well. But we will keep it aside for now and just concentrate on the first two interpretations of the Rinne's test. Now, the second test. Well, we are going to perform this test on both ears. Needless to say this, obviously, any subject has 2 ears, we are going to check 2 ears. So, after performing it on both sides, Now we move on to the next test, which will sort of provide the confirmation. It can be a confirmatory test, and that's the Weber's test. The Weber's test, and before we actually understand the Weber's test, let me just add to our existing discussion. Air conduction is normally better than bone conduction. Yes, we have already said this. AC is better than BC. But I want to add one more sentence to it now. That AC is better than BC, and therefore AC masks the BC to certain extent. Naturally, something which is louder, stronger, bigger, it's going to mask the smaller one. So, AC is normally better than BC, and therefore AC masks the BC to a certain extent. Remember, there is something called as masking effect. You know, in ordinary situation also we come across this masking effect. If you are traveling in a public transport vehicle and there are lots of sounds with different frequencies, some of the sounds get masked, and you are not able to hear those sounds properly. So, masking effect. Now coming to the Weber's test. Let's see how it is performed and the interpretation then. Strike the tuning fork. I want to use a firm surface. Yes, let me add here. Generally, it's accepted that a firm pad is used, but you should not use metal to strike the tuning fork. Incorrect. Such surfaces, such objects, metallic objects should not be used to strike the tuning fork. There is mixing of frequencies there. That's undesirable. So, use a firm surface. Right. Now we go to the Weber's test. It is done like this. A vibrating tuning fork is placed equidistant between the two ears. And we are checking, mark these words, we are checking and comparing the bone conduction of the two ears simultaneously. Right? A tuning fork, vibrating tuning fork, will be placed on the skull bone, either on the forehead or like this. And remember, the prongs of the tuning fork should be vibrating, it should be placed like this, that it vibrates towards the ears, here or here. So, we are comparing the bone conduction on both sides simultaneously. Now, what is the interpretation? How do you interpret this test? First interpretation is normal. When do you call it normal? Normal means the patient says, I can hear on both sides equally. In other words, there is no lateralization of the sound. I repeat once again. Patient says, I can hear on both sides equally. The sound is not getting lateralized. The sound is not getting heard better on one side. No, I can hear equally on both sides. So that's normal. Sound heard equally on both sides. Second possibility, conduction deafness. What happens in this? We have already done Rinne's test, and we may have already diagnosed or reached the diagnosis of conduction deafness in the Rinne's test. This will provide the confirmation now. If there is conduction deafness on, let's say, left side, left ear conduction deafness, what is going to happen? The subject says, I hear better on the left side. Yes, you heard it correct. If there is left-sided conduction deafness means air conduction defect in the external or middle ear. So, if the conduction deafness on the left side, the patient says, I hear better on the left side, better on the deceased side. Sound gets lateralized on the deceased side. Why is that? It's because I already mentioned that we are actually checking the bone conduction on both sides. There is also air conduction that is happening. This vibrating tuning fork is placed here. So air conduction is also happening. I mean, sound is also going through the air and through the external and middle ears. And plus we have placed the tuning fork on the bone straight away. So there is also bone conduction. Now see here. If there is a conduction deafness, let's say on the left side, what will happen? The air conduction is defective. Air conduction is defective means, you remember what I said some time back. Air conduction is normally better than bone conduction and therefore it masks the bone conduction. Air conduction masks the bone conduction normally. Now here, in the case of conduction deafness like otitis media or something, air conduction decreases. So it can no more mask the bone conduction. It can no more mask the bone conduction because air conduction now has decreased. So that masking effect is gone. And therefore, when you place the vibrating tuning fork on the bone, the sound will be heard better on the deceased side where the air conduction has gone down and therefore bone conduction has become prominent. Normally the bone conduction was masked by the air conduction. Now the air conduction has gone down. So bone conduction has become prominent. That masking effect gone. And therefore when you place the tuning fork over here, left side air conduction deafness and therefore bone conduction becomes prominent. The patient says, the subject says, I hear better on the left side, the deceased side. That means this is a conduction deafness. So remember, we had done Rinne's tests on the left ear. We had thought of a conduction deafness possibly. And now the subject says, the sound is getting lateralized to that ear where we suspected conduction deafness means Rinne negative on the left side. That was the first test we performed. Rinne was negative on the left side, conduction deafness possibility. And now the patient says, the sound is getting lateralized to the left ear, conduction deafness diagnosed, confirmed. Okay. So that's the possibility. We had Rinne negative and we have on the left, in the left ear Rinne was negative, and then Weber's test, the subject says sound is heard better on the left side, conduction deafness confirmed. The third possibility is nerve deafness. Nerve deafness. If there is nerve deafness, suppose Rinne was positive on one side, in one ear Rinne was positive and it was nerve deafness. Suppose on the right side Rinne was positive, and remember what I told you, Rinne positive means either normal or nerve deafness. Now is the time to confirm it. Rinne was positive. So there were two possibilities, either the normal hearing or nerve deafness. Let's say on the right ear we got that result. Now in the case of nerve deafness, we are suspecting it on the right side right now, just hypothetically. When you place the tuning fork on the forehead or on the skull bone, equal distance between the two ears, and if the patient now says, now I am looking at another scenario, okay, forget about the conduction deafness scenario, that's gone. If now the patient says that the sound is getting lateralized to the left ear, I am now talking about another subject. In that subject, Rinne was positive on the right side, Rinne was positive on the right ear. So I had two possibilities, either the right ear is normal hearing or there is sensory neural deafness. We have already discussed that, two possibilities. And now I perform the Weber's test, and when I place the tuning fork and the subject says the sound is getting lateralized to the left ear, it will be confirmed, because in the case of nerve deafness, the sound gets lateralized to the normal ear. Suppose the subject has a nerve deafness on the right side, the sound will be heard better when you place the tuning fork like this, equidistant between the two ears. The sound will get lateralized to the normal ear. Yes, because if there is a nerve lesion, I told you so many times in this discussion, nerve is the final common path, whether it's air conduction of sound or bone conduction of sound. Finally, the sound impulses are carried by the nerve, and if the nerve itself is lesioned, then the sound will be heard less on that side. So when you place the tuning fork on the forehead, vibrating tuning fork, and the sound, now I am interpreting it along with the Rinne, okay. Here is a subject, his or her Rinne was positive on the right side, we checked both ears and right side Rinne was positive, and therefore either it was a normal ear or it was nerve deafness on the right side. And now I perform Weber's test and the subject says the sound is getting lateralized to the left side. That means there is nerve deafness possibility on the right side has been confirmed by the Weber's test. Rinne was positive on the right side, and now in the Weber's test, sound is going more to the left side. That means nerve is definitely lesioned on the right side. Sound will be heard less in the nerve deafness, whether it is air conduction, whether it's bone conduction. Nerve lesion means both AC, BC, both are reduced, and therefore sound heard better on the normal side in the case of nerve deafness. We are assuming here that the subject had suspected nerve deafness in the Rinne positive, in the Rinne's test, and we performed the Weber's test. Sound went to the normal ear because this ear had nerve deafness. This is confirmed. So remember Weber's test, normal subject means sound equally heard on both sides. Conduction deafness means sound gets lateralized to the deceased ear where there is conduction deafness. Sound gets better heard on that side. And in the case of nerve deafness, sound is heard, suppose nerve deafness on one side, sound gets heard better on the other side. Other side is expected to be normal or supposed to be normal. So that is how the tests can be performed, and we can, for the sake of confirmation, if the sound is getting lateralized, let me just take one step further. Suppose you perform and you are not aware what type of deafness is, whether it is a deafness and what type of deafness is it. You perform the Weber's test, sound gets lateralized to, let's say, left side. Mark my words again. You are performing the Weber's test, sound is getting lateralized to the left ear. Now what are the two possibilities? Either there is a conduction deafness of the left side or nerve deafness on the right side. Two possibilities. and therefore you can again perform the confirmatory test when the sound gets lateralized. Either it's the conduction deafness on the left, suppose sound is getting lateralized to the left side in the Weber's test. That means either there is a conduction deafness on the left side or nerve deafness on the right side. What do you do then? Go back to the Rinne's test. Simple. Rinne's test, you are individually checking the ears. If it's a left-sided conduction deafness, Rinne will be negative on the left side. And if it's a right-sided nerve deafness, Rinne will be positive on the right side. So that is how, after performing the Weber's test, you can again go back to Rinne's test and confirm your finding of the Weber's test, because sound lateralizing to one ear gives you two possibilities: either conduction deafness of that ear or nerve deafness of the other ear, therefore sound lateralized to the normal ear. Right. So remember, this nerve deafness will cause, nerve deafness on one side causes the sound to go to the other side, which is supposed to be normal. Right. So that's the Weber's test. And then finally, Schwabach's absolute bone conduction test. Let me just quickly go through it. Schwabach's absolute bone conduction test is a subjective test. It's a subjective test. In this test, it is assumed that the examiner, the observer, has a normal hearing. And how the test is performed? Vibrating tuning fork will be placed on the subject's mastoid process. When the subject stops hearing the sound, immediately it's transferred to the observer's mastoid process. Even the observer has stopped hearing, observer cannot hear the sound. That means, okay, same time both have stopped hearing, and therefore, since observer is normal, that means the subject also is normal. But if, I just conclude by saying that if the subject says, I have stopped hearing through the mastoid, you immediately transfer it to the observer's mastoid process, and observer can hear it, although subject stopped hearing, but now observer continues to hear some sound. That means the hearing loss has happened in the subject. Therefore, subject stopped hearing the sound through the bone early, whereas where immediately you transferred it here, the observer could continue to hear some sounds. So it's a subjective test where you compare the subject's bone conduction with the bone conduction of the examiner or the observer. Right. So these are the tests for hearing or deafness. And of course, I told you the best ones are of course audiometry, pure tone audiometer or speech audiometer. So in summary, these are the tests for hearing or deafness.